Manuel Ponce, Project Addendum. This is the second take for today. I'm going to be covering global warming. Project Addendum is an application of Peter Joseph's Zeitgeist movement. It's about Zeitgeist. Zeitgeist was created in the hope that it will inspire people to start looking at the world from a more critical perspective and to relay the understanding that very often things are not what the population at large think they are. The true understanding of events, both historical and modern, are crucial to the development, awareness, and spirituality of the human condition. Zeitgeist is an expose on the social fallacies that currently plague this fundamental progress by way of critically analyzing common political, religious, and economic understandings which most have assumed to be true. Peter Joseph. And since I'm going to be covering global warming, try to make it fast, and since I've been here all morning and stuff, draining the hell out of my computer. It's a long story. But global warming, and basically I coined it as catch-22. The definition of catch-22 is a difficult problem for which all solutions are invalid and an illogical or senseless situation. Well, the reason I coined it as catch-22, basically as a senseless situation, in a sense, is what basically our indoctrinations, to orthodoxies, the religious orthodoxies, the political orthodoxies, which is dualist states, basically just working within the same premise, in a sense, keeping everything the same. Well, these orthodoxies will keep people within their crests and thoros, keeping them from using logic or common sense, basically in regard to the things that matter, as far as in the processes of life, as far as food, air, water, energy, the outcomes of our current economic system, which is basically it's predicated on cyclical consumption with no reference towards the scientific method for social concern. In other words, we're using products faster than they can be renewed. We're basically using products and then putting them out, polluting the environment, making things inefficient, on purpose to maintain cyclical consumption. That's that train of social conditioning, in sense, to work within this premise, to work within this medium. Well, people are basically they're basically indoctrinated into their financial stability that they could not think outside the box. So here we are, trying to inspire cognition, but that's why I coined it, as catch-22. Global warming. Global warming is a product of a century and a half of burning fossil fuels, a burning that has accumulated 360 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, thus shifting the global climate. A shift that gradually but evidently is changing the average global temperature. Mark Newt, a climatologist at Oxford, noted that in this century alone, the average global temperature may increase more than 2 degrees Celsius. It has increased to 2 degrees Celsius, and at this point, limiting the change is a very difficult task to achieve. While an additional 2 degree spike to our current spike, it will bring dramatic change, with a major call of increase in the level of action required to maintain the pre-existing order. Shifts in precipitation, a rising sea level, extreme heat and droughts, the detriments of global warming, they could all lead to vast water and food shortages, while developing new crops, preparing large freshwater supplies in advance of heat waves, or responding to disasters after the fact could have little or no effect. The more detriments of global warming, extreme cyclones in dried out regions, in a sense, will most likely result in a migration. Nearly 2 billion people could be displaced, a national security issue. This national security issue, I'm highlight, not considering ethnic ethics or the equity issues, it will cause an effect on the healthcare infrastructures. Most likely in jungle regions of the world, this change in precipitation will stimulate mass spawnings of mosquitoes and the diseases that they carry the care that follows will tend to cause a spike in the cost of the healthcare infrastructure. If I change the constituent to the subject, and to note, with lack of a credible infrastructure in the developing countries, the results could be dire. With farming as a consideration, a billion people in the developing world and the reliance on rain-fed natural agriculture will heavily be affected with the change in the precipitation and availability of water. If this change affects the habitable standard due to tolerance and migration is inevitable. As the migration floods towns or cities, desperation will lead to a lack of morality as necessity comes into effect. In retrospect, the factors of sudden dramatic adaptation fall under civil unrest, ethnic hostility, and ultimately violence. In a time when service security, whether regional, national, or private, is likely to be scarce, uncomfort and chaos is sure to fuel a crisis. We continue to deviate from the issue of addressment. Carbon emissions will trap more solar heat, which again will increase atmospheric temperatures, warming oceans, melting ice sheets, and as we quote, shifting precipitation. Facts of global warming. In 2010, record amounts of snow buried the Northeast, leaving millions of people snowbound. To note, warmer temperatures lead to wetter air, which in turn leads to more snow. To further the phenomenon of ice melt and the influence on sea, the influence of sea level brings the consideration factor of how darker the land surfaces exposed by melting ice and snow will absorb more of the sun's energy, potentially exacerbating warming in that area. 2010 is tied the hottest year on record. In San Antonio, Texas, the average global temperature for the summer was between 102 to 104 degrees. Fact and a new world record. The facts of global warming are devastating. To note, Europe experienced a huge heat wave in 2003. The death toll reached 70,000 people in 3 weeks. While in the United States, we've had similar heat waves in the Chicago, Illinois, and Midwest region of the country. The frequency of these events is sure to follow. The degree of frequency lies in present-day action. With the push and implementation of new radical reforms like a tax on carbon emissions with standards like mandatory carpools, transportation taxes for the lack of usage of public transportation, bus, light rails, and rental bikes, identity correspondence relevant for the privilege of purchasing gas, much like the Reform Acts implemented in the 1970s oil prices. They might seem like extreme measures and a strong advocate of harm to our general zeitgeist and economy. But if by the end of the century we concur with our normal path of pollution and consumption, we can see heat waves like the one in 1995 Chicago and 2005 Europe occurring up to 3 times every summer. With the world's high temperature extremes increasing and cold temperature extremes decreasing, taking action is only relevant due to the nature of the event horizon. While the change is inevitable, the degree into which intervention will have an impact without drastic adaptation is but an hour clock expediting its grains. That's global warming on my behalf. Thank you, Project Addendum.